All right, so as we head into some pretty treacherous waters in reference to alcohol sales, especially in the state of Florida and in Texas, we are going to break this all down today. My name is Paul Barron, and this is the Barron Report. Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of the happenings that occurred actually this last Friday, also leading up to that in the previous weeks. Part of this was kind of launched, at least here in the state of Florida, in reference to closing bars or outlets that have the ability or have the case of 50% or more of alcohol sales now actually being asked to close or forced to close here in the state of Florida. And Texas, of course, is also following suit on this. Part of this came on the heels of an issue that occurred in Orlando called the Knights Pub. And this was, of course, was a location that essentially opened their doors. Take a look at some of the clips to kind of get a framework of what happened and how it put us in this place of alcohol banning here in Florida.
Julie, the suspension sign went up earlier today after state leaders say that 13 staff members and 28 customers tested positive for the coronavirus. Neighbors shared this photo when the Knights Pub reopened on June 5th, and customers were being served alcohol while not being seated.
And due to their advertisements, we pulled their liquor license last night.
Those advertisements showcased on social media come with their own controversy. News 6 found the same photographs posted this month and included in the state's paperwork were also posted last year. The Knights Pub owner said to News 6 the photos were taken in July of 2019, saying, "We completely disagree with the statements being made, and we are diligently working to prove that that information was incorrect."
J. Paul Pepin says a few overcrowded bars have impacted many.
That falls right on the bar owner, trying to make up for lost time, and now he screwed the pooch for a lot of people.
So as you can see, the hit on Florida's bar business is going to be massive. Obviously, this is going to have, I think, an effect on many of the hot zone states that we already have, including California, which we've already seen some indicators from California. They're essentially following suit and doing some of the same exact things in terms of closing bar operations to avoid what's actually happening. And of course, Texas is kind of same situation with them. Here's the thing: when you look at what's happened over the past few months here with the coronavirus and how it's affected the restaurant and hospitality business, the fact is that in many cases, these states could easily put bans in place, or I shouldn't say bans, I should say put restrictions in place and also guidelines that have enforcement qualities about them. And that was one of the things that I would disagree with on the state of Florida, is they didn't really set up the restaurants and the bars to really adhere. There were no real clear fines, like Knights Pub there in Orlando has lost their liquor license. If you make the liquor license part of the situation that you lose in case you're violating social distancing and CDC guidelines, absolutely, totally agree with that. But to do a lock, stock shutdown of the entire bar industry over one or two bad apples is just unbelievable. And I cannot imagine the impact that this is going to have in terms of a trickle-down effect. Let's look at the rules, though, because the rules are kind of interesting of what, if you're a bar owner or a restaurant owner, where do you fall, especially here in the state of Florida, and I have a feeling that Texas and California are going to be in the same state. Pick up on this clip right here.
Well, it was nice while it lasted. We're closed until further notice. The owners tell me they had just been reopened only 3 weeks before one tweet meant they were closed again. Stunned by this short Department of Business and Professional Regulation tweet that says it's suspending on-premise consumption of alcohol at bars statewide.
It's not necessarily that we disagree, but it would have been nice to have a heads up. And we've already lost so much money that it's scary.
If you don't wear a mask, we will be fined or forced to close. No idea that that would happen literally about 2 hours into opening.
This business is not allowed to sell alcohol on premises. Now, what they're doing to try to get around that, they are allowed to sell to-go containers as long as they're in a self-sealed container.
No alcohol sales for on-site consumption. To-go alcohol orders allowed. Restaurants can serve alcohol only if 50% or less of gross revenue comes from alcohol sales for on-site consumption.
All right, so you can see the impact is going to be catastrophic, I think, for the bar business here, especially with this, kind of this false start situation. Texas, Governor Abbott has already started to roll back some of their rollout in terms of business openings and also allowing for guests and customers to come back to these operations. And when you look at this, the implications could be very wide in the way of a swath through restaurant and hospitality. Again, back to my point is the whole issue of states just banning it automatically without being able to give these restaurant and bar owners a little bit of understanding of saying, hey, if you're violating, just putting out the threat of if you're violating, here's the $15,000 a day fine, or here's the eventual loss of liquor license. Those kind of things were never in place prior to this happening, and now it seems like we went from 0 to 60 in terms of regulation on these businesses like I've never seen before. So essentially, this is a restriction on these business owners in a way that they really had no control of to a certain extent. Now, don't say that it's not on the bar owner or the restaurant owner to make sure that they stay within guidelines. You're going to have guests and customers who absolutely are violating the social distancing, not wearing a mask, etc., those kind of things that are occurring. I've seen it happen in some of the restaurants, even here in our area, where patrons got upset and literally got kind of confrontational, and bar owners and restaurant owners asked them to leave. And unfortunately, it puts these bar owners and restaurant owners right in the middle of the case with these. I want to kind of give you a framework of the number of bar owners and what they had to say about this, because I think this is important to really get a framework of how all of this is coming together and how it's going to affect the industry. Listen up right here.
It's frustrating because I know a lot of good establishment owners that were trying to do things the right way, that were limiting capacity, that were sanitizing properly. And it's frustrating that there are establishment owners and patrons that weren't following those, and it's going to be a reason that a lot of businesses don't make it through.
They were really excited to get back to work, really excited to get off unemployment, and after a couple weeks of working, now they're faced with the decision, do I go back through that process of getting back on unemployment? It's scary for everybody.
We tried to use as many common sense practices. We got rid of our karaoke, anything that would entice a crowd.
Take a look at this. This is Friday night in downtown Orlando. Typically we'd see a lot more activity. Orange Avenue would be shut down. The bars would be buzzing. Instead, the ones that don't serve food, like this one, are shut down. News 6 was there as these bar workers switched this sign urging people to wear masks to one that said they were indefinitely closed. Jason Lambert's place, the Hammered Lamb, is still open because it serves food and drinks. But he says he takes issue with how the DBPR is handling this, including they're announcing this ban on alcohol sales on Twitter instead of telling the bar owners directly first.
We're the ones that are struggling, trying to stay open and try to do everything we can to do everything right. And then there's no one enforcing it but us. And that's not the way it should be.
So this has just gone back to the way it was last month. That's exactly what it is. So we're allowed to sell to go. Everything can be in to go. I don't have any thoughts right now. I'm blinded. I don't know what to do. My employees are going to be without work again. And we did have the PPP money, and that's all long gone.
Yeah, Paul, so the owner at Our Bar in St. Pete says they've been following the rules, making sure that people inside are social distancing. And they say that's why they were so shocked to learn that today they would have to close again.
We burned through 90% of our savings during the first shutdown. At what point are we going to get some more help?
So you can see there's a lot of frustrated bar owners. I think we're going to continue to see this happening in states across the country as we move through the summer, especially when you look at the case count here in Florida, hitting almost 9,000 new COVID cases and 39 deaths here recently. These recent spikes obviously have got a lot of government officials spooked, and I do think we are going to continue to see this. Here's my concern. This is maybe not where it's going to stop. We could see this start to implement across the hospitality industry back into the restaurant business side of it, including the ones that are operating under the new guidelines where they have less than 50% of bar sales and can still do alcohol and liquor. And I think the hospitality industry is going to continue to get hit and pelted, including things like cruise lines, hotels, etc. The one thing that was kind of surprising to me was American Airlines, who announced that they were stopping their social distancing requirements and they were going back to full flights. So I don't really get this whole issue of things like that happening and then things over here like this happening for the restaurant and hospitality. It just does not seem like it's a level playing field, and it's definitely not one that I think is going to be able to kind of get us past the hump. Granted, we've got to figure out a way to stop the spread and make sure that everybody is safe, but I think that's got to go both ways, both on the businesses and the consumers. One thing for sure, though, that is happening, and that is alcohol sales. Alcohol sales are spiking to an unbelievable amount, whether it is people concerned about product not being available or just consumers getting back into the hospitality and restaurant side of it that's driving this. Take a look at this clip, because this kind of shows you the case for how alcohols are moving up even though we have bars closing.
Nancy Prine ordered 2 cases from Tim's Wine Market in Orlando, enough to last her and her friend for weeks, just in case coronavirus makes it too risky to go out to buy more. The store's owner says sales in March have been up nearly 20%, with regular customers buying more and new customers coming in, citing concerns that the pandemic might keep them stuck at home.
If you follow Instagram and all the social media, people are drinking more than they normally do as well.
Across Florida and nationally, alcohol sales are surging. According to Nielsen Research, sales for the week ending March 21st are overall up 55%. Wine sales alone up 66%. And online sales up 243%.
So I think at least there is a little bit of silver lining there for if you're in the bar business or you're in the restaurant industry and you're trying to figure out some new business models of how to serve patrons and guests, is we are going to see more and more direct-to-consumer applications, whether it's cocktails to go or we look at home kits, things that you might be start to develop in terms of shipping. But I think that we are going to be looking at some pretty major impacts on real estate. Just the trickle-down effect alone for hitting the industry around this is going to be pretty massive when you look at the total number of bars in places, especially like Texas, Florida, and also California, which is a large portion of the restaurant and hospitality industry, and of course where the major patrons are. We're going to continue to keep a line on where this is going to go. And whether or not the restaurants could be next in the pecking order here, especially as it relates to the alcohol sales, which usually has a tendency to draw in crowds. And will we see restaurants starting to take some of these crowds that are falling out of the bars and looking for new places to go and consume their alcohol? It's going to be interesting to watch. Of course, you guys can stay tuned right here. If you are listening in over on our podcast, make sure and drop us a review. It's a great way for us to get feedback from our audience. And if you're on YouTube, make sure and smash the like button. And of course, subscribe. That's how you get great content here from Foodable. And if you have a great story, or you maybe have a topic, or maybe you're a bar owner out there and you've got some ideas of how we can recommend things to the states so that we can continue to operate our businesses and still be in compliance and also help the public health situation, shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com or hit me up over on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Barron Report.